Some people attract wealth like it was waiting for them. Others fight for years, doing everything right, yet nothing moves. Why? That's the question Emma used to whisper every night while staring at her bank app, watching numbers that never seemed to grow. She worked hard. She prayed harder, but life still felt unfair. Until one moment, one encounter revealed a hidden law that turned her entire world upside down. If you stay with this story until the end, you'll understand something most people never do. The silent law that decides who rises and who remains stuck. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Emma was 38, living in a small apartment outside Chicago. She woke before sunrise every morning, brewed her cheap coffee, and drove to a job that drained her spirit more than it paid her bills. Her smile at work was polite, practiced, the kind you wear when you're dying a little inside. She wasn't lazy, she wasn't lost. She was just tired of giving so much and getting so little back. People told her, "Be grateful, Emma, at least you have a job." But deep inside, she felt a quiet rebellion. There has to be more than this. One rainy evening, while waiting for the bus, she met someone who would prove her right. An older woman sat beside her, holding a warm leather notebook and a calmness that didn't belong to the chaos of the city. The woman looked at Emma and said softly, "You look like someone fighting the wrong battle." Emma blinked, confused. Before she could reply, the woman handed her a folded piece of paper and whispered, "Open it when you're ready to stop struggling." Then the bus came, and the woman was gone. Emma turned the paper over in her hand, her heart racing. Something inside told her this wasn't random. But she had no idea that inside that tiny piece of paper was the doorway to a truth that would separate her old life from the one she was about to live. The letter came in a gray envelope with red numbers screaming through the paper. Final notice. Emma stared at it on her kitchen counter like it was a verdict. Rent up, groceries up, gas up, paycheck the same. She rubbed her eyes and laughed that tired laugh people do when they're out of options. "I'm a good person. I work hard. Why does wealth run from me?" Silence answered back, the kind that presses on your chest. At work, the fluorescent lights hummed like restless bees. Her manager, Carl, called her into a glass-walled room and closed the door. "Corporate's cutting hours. It's not you," he said, not meeting his eyes. Emma nodded, swallowed, and squeezed a smile that didn't belong on her face. Outside the room, coworkers pretended not to notice, scrolling through their phones. Her heart fell 3 floors without moving an inch. At lunch, her friend Maya slid into the booth with a soda and a soft look. "You okay?" Maya asked, already knowing the answer. Emma shrugged. "I'm doing everything right, and it's like the door never opens." Maya reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Maybe you're banging on the wrong door." The words stung because they felt true, too true. After work, she sat in the back of the bus, rain tapping the windows like a metronome. She pulled out the folded paper the older woman had given her. All day it had burned in her pocket like a tiny hot coal. Her fingers trembled as she opened it, breath held tight in her chest. Was this hope, or just another letdown wrapped in pretty words?
Her phone buzzed. Bank alert. Balance dangerously low. She closed her eyes, steadied her breath, and looked back at the note. Ink faded with time, but the message was sharp as glass. 6 words, simple and unsettling, like a mirror tilted to the soul. She read them once, then twice, feeling her stomach drop and her heart rise. Because if this was true, everything she believed about money, success, and worth had been upside down. And the worst part? She had proof all over her life.
The words on the paper were written in delicate, slanted handwriting. The law doesn't serve the desperate. It serves the aligned. Emma frowned. It sounded poetic, but it made no sense. What law? What alignment? She tucked it in her bag, but her mind kept echoing those words all the way home. That night, she couldn't sleep. Every thought kept circling back to that line like it was chasing her. At 2 a.m., her laptop light painted her tired face as she searched online. Law of alignment, hidden laws of success, spiritual wealth principles. Hundreds of articles came up. Some about energy, some about old philosophies. Most sounded like vague promises wrapped in mystical words. But then, one obscure forum post caught her eye, dated 10 years ago with no author. It read, "The first rule of the hidden law. Wealth mirrors energy." Emma leaned closer, her pulse rising. She clicked the attached PDF, a grainy scan of what looked like a handwritten book. Each page began with the same phrase, "As within, so without." Her eyes ran down line after line about emotion, vibration, and faith. It didn't feel like random self-help. It felt like something ancient. Her heartbeat quickened as she whispered, "Wealth mirrors energy." What if all her exhaustion was feeding scarcity instead of breaking it? In the following days, Emma couldn't stop thinking about it. At work, during her drive, even brushing her teeth, the words echoed. She noticed how often she complained, how easily she said, "I'm broke," or "I can't." It was as if her life was a tape, on repeat, broadcasting struggle. And if wealth mirrored energy, what was she showing the mirror? That realization landed heavy, like a truth she didn't want but couldn't deny. That night, she decided to try something, just once. She wrote in her journal, "I am open to abundance." It felt ridiculous, childish even, but something inside her softened just a little. For the first time in years, she slept without crying. In her dream, she saw the old woman again, sitting in that same cafe, smiling. And beside her coffee cup lay a small golden key. The morning light slipped through the blinds and brushed across Emma's face. Something felt different, quieter, lighter, like her thoughts weren't racing for once. She made coffee and whispered the same line she had written the night before. "I am open to abundance." It felt strange leaving her lips, like speaking another language. But a part of her, the tired part, was finally willing to try something new. At work, she noticed how everyone complained. The office buzzed with low energy, gossip, frustration, comparison. For the first time, she didn't join in. She just observed. When her coworker Maya joked, "Looks like another paycheck just to stay broke," Emma smiled softly. Instead of agreeing, she said, "Not this time." The words surprised even her. She began paying attention to every thought, every emotion. Each time she caught herself saying, "I can't," she replaced it with, "I'm learning." Each time she felt panic, she took a deep breath and whispered, "I'm safe." Small things, barely noticeable,
but the world started responding differently. That week, her neighbor unexpectedly returned a deposit she'd forgotten she'd made years ago, and a local shop offered her freelance work after seeing her old portfolio online. Emma didn't want to believe it was the law. Her rational mind screamed coincidence, but the pattern was too clear. The calmer she felt, the more doors opened. It was as if her world mirrored her energy exactly as the word said. Even her boss, Carl, called her in to thank her for her positive attitude. She walked out smiling, realizing how much had changed without anything big happening. That night, she opened her journal again and wrote, "Maybe wealth was never money. Maybe it's alignment." But as she closed the notebook, a thought slipped in. Was that all? If energy was only the first rule, what came next? She needed answers, real ones. And somehow, deep in her gut, she knew exactly where to find them. The cafe, the old woman, the beginning of everything. The cafe looked the same as before, tiny lights strung across the windows, the smell of cinnamon and rain lingering in the air. Emma walked in with her heart racing, scanning every corner. And there she was, the old woman, sitting by the window, sipping tea like time hadn't passed. When their eyes met, the woman smiled gently, as if she'd been expecting her. "Sit, child," she said. "You've started to remember who you are." Emma sat, breath uneven, feeling both grateful and unnerved. "I read the note, and I think I understand a little." The woman nodded slowly. "You've seen the mirror. That's the first door." Her voice was soft but carried weight, the kind that makes you listen deeper. "The law doesn't test you, it reflects you. Every thought, every belief. That's why most people keep living in circles. They're repeating the same energy every day." Emma leaned in. "Then how do I stop repeating it?" The woman smiled. "By learning the second law. Wealth follows vision." Emma frowned. "Vision? Like goals?" The woman shook her head. "Not goals, vision. Seeing before it comes, feeling before it appears." She took a slow sip of tea. "Most people only believe what they see. That's why they never move. The ones who rise," she paused, locking eyes with Emma, "they believe before they see." Something in Emma's chest stirred, a mix of hope and fear. If that was true, her whole life had been a reflection of disbelief. The woman reached into her coat pocket and placed something on the table, a small brass key. "Every vision needs a door," she whispered. "This is yours." Emma picked it up, confused. "What does it open?" The woman smiled faintly. "That depends on what you choose to see." And before Emma could ask another question, the barista turned to greet a new customer. When she looked back, the woman was gone. Only the faint scent of jasmine tea remained. Emma sat frozen, turning the key over in her hand. It had something engraved on it, tiny letters she hadn't noticed before. "See it before it comes." She whispered the words under her breath. Outside, the city glowed with the soft hum of night, and for the first time in years, Emma felt like someone, was waiting for her to believe. That night, Emma placed the little brass key on her nightstand. It gleamed faintly under the lamplight, as if it had a heartbeat of its own. She traced her finger over the engraving again. "See it before it comes." The words pulsed through her mind long after she turned off the light. What if belief isn't waiting, but building, she wondered. And for the first time, she fell asleep imagining a life that actually felt abundant. The next morning, she did something new. Before checking her phone or worrying about bills, she closed her eyes. She pictured herself walking into a sunlit office she loved, laughing with people who respected her. She saw herself paying her rent with ease, sending money to her mom, traveling again. She could almost feel it, the air of freedom, the ease of enough. It wasn't real yet, but it felt true. Over the next week, Emma treated those visions like appointments. Every morning, 10 minutes before work, she'd sit by her window, breathe deeply, and imagine that better life. At first, it felt silly, like pretending, but her energy shifted. She walked taller, spoke slower. Even her coworkers noticed. "You seem different," Maya said, "like lighter somehow." Emma just smiled. She couldn't explain it yet, but something unseen was rearranging her world. Then came the email. A company she'd applied to months ago, one she'd completely forgotten about, wanted to interview her for a position double her current salary. Her first reaction wasn't shock, it was recognition, as if she had seen this moment long before it appeared. She clutched the brass key around her neck and whispered, "See it before it comes." And when she walked into that interview, it was like walking into her own vision come alive. But that night, as she celebrated with Maya, a new question settled in her chest. If seeing it before it comes could open one door, what else could it unlock? Was there another law beyond vision, one that turned belief into permanence? Emma didn't know it yet, but the key had more to teach her, and soon the universe would make sure she found the final lesson, because the hidden law was far from finished with her. 2 weeks later, Emma stood in front of the glass building she had once driven past countless times, whispering, "Someday." Now she was walking through her doors. Her heels clicked against the marble floor, echoing like proof of everything she had imagined. The interview had gone perfectly, and the offer letter in her hand carried a number she'd only ever written in dreams. But more than the salary, it was the peace inside her, the quiet knowing that this wasn't luck, it was alignment. On her first day, she sat in her new office, sunlight spilling across her desk. She placed the brass key next to her computer, her quiet reminder of faith. Her manager, David, walked in and smiled. "You come highly recommended, Emma. We're glad you're here." She thanked him, her heart swelling with gratitude and disbelief. At lunch, Maya texted, "You're living proof that energy works." Emma laughed softly. "No," she typed back. "Belief works." Weeks passed, and her life began to bloom in ways she couldn't explain. Money wasn't a burden anymore. It flowed naturally, effortlessly. But something deeper was happening. She felt calmer, more compassionate, more connected. The law wasn't just changing her bank account, it was changing her heart. And yet, in quiet moments, she still thought about the old woman. One afternoon after work, Emma returned to the cafe. The same seat by the window, the same faint smell of cinnamon. She half expected disappointment until she saw a familiar hand sliding a cup of tea across the table. "Still believing before seeing?" she asked, her eyes twinkling. Emma smiled. "Every day." The woman nodded. "Then you're ready for the final lesson." The woman leaned forward, her tone soft but firm. "The third law," she said, "is the one that most people fail to learn. Gratitude in advance." Emma blinked. "Gratitude before it happens?" The woman nodded. "Because gratitude is proof of faith. The moment you thank life for what you haven't yet received, you tell the universe you already own it." Her words hit deep, as if something ancient in Emma finally woke up. She didn't realize it yet, but this last truth would be the bridge between her success and her freedom. Before we move on, if you believe that energy follows belief, just like Emma discovered, tap like right now. Maybe that small act is the universe's way of saying you're aligning too. That night, Emma sat by her window with the brass key in her palm. The city glowed beneath her, but her eyes were fixed on the stars. She whispered softly, "Thank you for what's already on its way." For the first time, she wasn't asking, she was thanking. No begging, no hoping, just peace. And in that stillness, something inside her finally clicked. Over the next few days, everything felt lighter. Traffic didn't frustrate her, bills didn't scare her, even small things, a compliment from a stranger, sunlight through her office window, felt like gifts. She had stopped chasing and started receiving. Gratitude became her quiet rhythm, and as her inner world softened, her outer world bloomed.
One morning, David, her manager, called her into his office. He smiled. "Emma, your work's been incredible. We're promoting you to lead the new department." Her breath caught. It wasn't just the raise, it was the timing. A few months ago, she had written the exact same goal in her journal, down to the title of the role. She looked down at the brass key on her necklace, and in that instant, she understood. The law had been waiting for her all along. Later that evening, she met Maya at their favorite cafe. Maya listened, wide-eyed. "So, it really worked?" Emma smiled. It wasn't about working harder or praying louder. It was about alignment, thinking, feeling, and living as if the blessing was already mine. She paused and added, "Wealth wasn't what I earned. It was what I became." Outside, the streetlights flickered, and Emma's reflection in the glass no longer looked like someone struggling. It looked like someone free. When she stepped outside, a cool wind brushed her face. She turned the key in her hand one last time, noticing new words faintly etched on its side. "You were the door all along." Tears welled in her eyes, the gentle kind that don't hurt. Emma smiled toward the night sky. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't chasing the light. She was the light. The hidden law doesn't live in luck, work, or talent. It lives in alignment, in gratitude, in vision, in belief. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. When your energy and your faith walk together, doors stop needing keys. If you felt what Emma felt, if you've ever wondered why some people rise while others remain stuck, then hit subscribe right now. Because this channel isn't just about stories. It's a journey of awakening, stories that reveal invisible laws, hidden truths, and timeless principles that can shift your entire life. Every day, a new story will meet you right where you are and guide you closer to who you're meant to become. Subscribe now, not just to watch, but to align.